Okay, welcome back to Death Valley, the expansion, Battle of McDowell, Great Battles of the American Civil War. We're up to the 8 p.m. turn, 2000 turn, last turn of the scenario. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different because this is actually a nighttime turn. And generally, I would not necessarily have any fighting going on in a night turn, and I'll describe why here in a few minutes. But this is the last turn of the scenario, and it's pretty tight in terms of the battle. Right now, it's pretty much a draw. There's a couple of points here for the Confederates with victory locations, and a couple points for the Union. Nobody has been brigade combat ineffective, BCE'd, and we've lost no cavalry and no artillery. So it's just a couple points. I think it's like 4-3 or something like that at this particular junction. So the game is still in flux here with it. So I'm going to actually play out the nighttime turn just to show you how it goes. But generally, I recommend not fighting your troops at nighttime. You see it with other games. You see it in other stories and things like that. Nighttime fights are just not good in 19th century warfare. And it's going to be a little bit tough because there's going to be some significant rules impact, with this. But we will see how it goes and see where it goes with things. I'm going to try to shoot videos for each activation here too, so you can see how it goes piece by piece and see if we can't tip the balance either way for the Union or the Confederates on here. So let's get started with this. I just want to do a brief introduction here with the first part. Then I'm going to play out some of the activations, and we'll kind of go from there. So first off, to know, Confederates won the activation roll, and it's going to be Johnson who's going to get the first activation over here, and we'll put him back over there. So that's the first thing to understand. Second thing to understand is some of the nighttime rules with this. First thing that's important is that command is reduced to half the ranges of your command radius over here. So, somebody like Schenk here, who took over from Millroy, because if you remember from the last video, Millroy was wounded. Schenk has a range of 6. It's actually cut in half to 3, so that's 3 movement points. Now, in this case, it doesn't really inhibit him greatly, but one significant piece will show up here. You can see the 32nd Ohio is right next to him. Also, he can trace over here. That's just 1, and then down 2 slopes. There is 2, 3. So he's definitely in range. Same one with this one. But these two over here, the 3rd West Virginia and the 25th Ohio, are going to be out of command. So with the Confederates, they're pretty much all in command up here. Johnson is pretty much in command. He's in command from Jackson, and he's in command of all his units up here. So they're pretty good for now. From Jackson's perspective, though, his radius is an 8, which is reduced to 4. So he can only go a few hexes here. If I navigate over this way, that would be 1, 2, and then 3, 4 to there, because that's down a triple slope. So that's going to be another plus 1 to the dice over here. So he can't even reach Campbell and Fulkerson up here. And let me just zooming up here a little bit so you can see them and see this part, because this area up here is probably going to be, we're going to try to get them, because this is where a lot of points are. If you can see here, there's Union cavalry right here. There's also some artillery under there as well that are kind of stuck right here. And we've also got a whole bunch of artillery over here. And Union's probably going to try to retreat them here just to be safe and go for the points on the hill. But the Confederates up here are going to try to push, maybe knock out some of the cavalry, maybe capture some guns up here to get some points here too. But they are out of command. So remember, out of command, loss of 1 activation. Also, too, we can't put them into attack command. So they won't be able to go into attack unless they do a brigade change orders, which may be a little bit tricky for them without any brigade help or division help from Jackson. So that will be a kind of interesting situation up there. So zooming back out to the main part of the battle, and getting to what we'll be concentrating on is this here, because this will have the most victory hexes that are in play for the battle itself. So that being said, that's the first thing, is at night, even at dusk, your command is cut in half. Command ranges are cut in half. Second thing that's going to be important to understand about the nighttime attack is that this actually, for firing at least, incurs negative modifiers for each hex that you go beyond, or not go beyond, but actually shoot into. So first hex is going to be a -1, second hex -2, third hex -3, and then if you go 4 hexes beyond, that's just prohibitive. You can't fire there. Your artillery limited to short range there as well, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. No cavalry charges, no prep fire is another piece there. And then the other piece that's going to be important to understand is that any unit with attack orders, so you can see we've got a lot of them over here with Johnson's units and with Millroy / Schenk's units. Those are all under attack. If they do one activation, they are going to get 1 level of fatigue, no matter what. Even if it's first, second, third, they're all going to get an extra activation. So the moment they activate under attack orders, they are going to get a +1 fatigue at the end of that activation. And the same thing for the next one. So it'll just accumulate, and it's really going to wipe them out, because if we look at some of these here, we're already at level 0 here. We're at level 0 here. I think Johnson's units are actually pretty good. They didn't incur fatigue, but then you also have fatigue down here with OK status for both of Jackson's units over here. So got to be a little bit careful about that. Now, they can go into advance orders and not incur the fatigue, but remember, with our advance orders, there's a trade-off with that. Trade-off is they can't move next to enemy units unless they're already adjacent to them. So that's going to be tricky. And this little knot that we have fighting right here, that may be okay, because we're all next to each other, so it's just going to be a shootout here. So you may want to think about taking them out of the attack orders and putting them into advance orders. Okay, but again, you got to remember with that, if we're doing shocks, advance order gets a -1 if you're shock attacking. So there's a lot of trade-offs we're going to have to weigh for this, and I will do those off camera, but I just want to mention them to you here now. If you ever consider doing nighttime fighting with Great Battles of the American Civil War, it is very, very tough to make it work because of these hindrances that are going to slow you up over here. Now here, like I said, I'm going to have to do it because game's in the balance. It's pretty much a draw right now. I'm going to try to tip the sides, but it may turn out to be something, may turn out to be nothing. We'll have to see how it goes with everything here. So with that said, I'm going to get started with Johnson's chit, as I showed you before. They've got the first activation. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with them and figure out if we're going to stay in attack or I'm going to switch them up. Now, I could have done those in brigade, but I kind of left them there because they may want to just attack and do that. So I left everything for brigade change order. So there may be a little bit within there as well. But I will bring you back and kind of walk through some of the things, but I'll spare you the dice rolling and the combat calculations, but kind of show you the highlights of each activation as we go along here. So stay tuned, and here we go for the first activation. Johnson's first activation. We had Connor lead it off over here, and they started with the 25th Virginia taking some shots at the 5th West Virginia as well as 12th Georgia Battalion right here. The the Virginians here actually disordered the 5th West Virginia, and then subsequently this fire over here yielded nothing, allowed them to disorder, and then that gave Connor the opportunity now to potentially shock the 5th West Virginia. So they went into a shock phase and had this as a shock hex. 5th West Virginia failed its pre-shock UDD. So it rolled again to see what's going to happen with it, and it actually passed. So it actually lost a strength point to bring them to 9, and they retreated back to here. This allowed Connor now and the 12th Georgia Battalion to move up like this. Now its brethren is right there. Excuse me, that's 12th. Yeah, its brethren is right there, over there. They exchanged fire over here with no results on each of them. They did get some disorders, but they easily passed, so it was pretty easy over there. So with the first activation of the night, Connor actually makes some headway and pushes them back. Now the victory hex that they need to take back is this one right here. Now again, like I said, they shot back and forth over here, and they're pretty much equal. So we didn't have them actually go in for it. Now they're a 6 and they're a 7, because I'm thinking what we want to do is try to have, actually want these guys when they go in, they can actually pivot as part of their advance. It's a little dangerous here because it's going to leave a flank in the air, but we want to go after that hex to knock them out of that victory hex. So Connor's going to be like that. We do have the other of Connor's troops up here, so I don't know if Ziegler will take a chance and move up a unit here. He's got plenty of problems here now with the 5th West Virginia, so that's gonna be an issue for them right there. So first off of the night attack, Johnson's been a little bit successful here. Now I'm going to take a look and see what Scott does and go from there. Looking at Scott's position here, this is a little bit tricky because his units, the 44th Virginia, it's got good strength. They've only lost a couple of points, but they're out of ammo. So they need just to hold with their bayonets, which is going to be tough against, units that can fire on them. And the 52nd over here, they're low ammo here as well. So I don't think they're going to move, but we did have a successful brigade change activation. So this attack marker is going to come off of Scott, and he's going to go into an advanced position. I'm a little up in the air about this, only because I'm not sure what that's going to do, but it does give some options in terms of retreating and maybe getting a 2nd or 3rd activation after any type of attack that comes through on the Union side. So they just move back. Now the 2 other collapsed units over here are just kind of staying put within here, and they will not get any type of fatigue because obviously they changed into advance orders. Now one thing I did forget about with Scott is they do get now a fatigue 0 or fatigue OK, excuse me, marker on there because they activated with attack orders on their previous turn. So that's Johnson's activation here, and on the top of the hill they're in pretty good shape, potentially getting back this hex, and if they do, that will probably tip it a little bit because that would just give the Union just 1 point back here and another point that's off camera, and the Confederates would have 3 or 4 points. So it may tip the balance. We'll have to see as time goes on here. Now the second half of this, if I zoom out, we still don't know what Jackson's units up here are going to do once they activate over here. But what I'm going to do now, because Johnson is finished for their activation, we're going to pull another chip. I'll do that here right on camera, and we'll see what we get. So we get, comes out with Johnson again. So back-to-back Johnsons. Now I should say, with their chits, because he's within command range of Jackson, he got 3 AMs. So this is his second of 3 AMs. So he'll have 1 more. The Union, I'm not going to tell you what the Union got right now. They've got a couple, at least 2 or 3. Now, the other thing here, you'll notice with Schenk in command here, he doesn't get a bonus on here. So it's either 2 or 3 activations that the Union will have. I'll leave that as a little bit of a mystery for now, just to keep you in suspense of what's potentially going to happen. But now Johnson is actually going to get a second round of attacks. So that means that Connor over here can potentially do something with the attack. So I've got to think about this here a little bit, and I'll bring you back with the action for that. For Connor, Scott, I'm holding him here as well because he's holding a hex here, and he's got a nice block against this 5 points, and also potentially this 2 points over here to hold off. Confederates really can't get up, or the Union can't really get up to it. Confederates are holding it pretty solidly here to get up to it, so I'm not moving them. They're not going to incur any fatigue over here as well. But as I said before, Connor now attacked again. They're going to get another fatigue, so they're up to fatigue 0. Now, of course, they're going to only have one more activation. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do anything with that activation. We do still have these guys over here to see if we can do something against them, but we haven't had any Millroy activations yet either. So Millroy still has a chance to recover, but Confederates got the jump on them and really pushed them back. It's going to be interesting for the next activation here. So stay tuned. Well, I pulled the next chit, and you never guess who it is. It's Johnson again. So that's his 3rd activation. This is going to be it for him. So I think we're going to go. I'm not sure what to do here now with this, because we've got them sitting there, right there, with a very precarious position. But we have these units here who have, he's collapsed. He's okay because he didn't really actually shock. They ran away before then. Actually, he should have lost a strength point. That's a good point there. I forget the end of shock phase sometimes when it gets too busy, but there we go. We correct that. I did get it for Connor over here, but I didn't get it for him. So that's a tricky situation here because he could pivot and try to attack him there, and he can't really do much about it. So I think we will go in for that and see what we can do to knock him out. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, so for Jackson, we start out with Fulkerson. They actually successfully changed their orders, so they're now in attack orders. They've moved up here, here, and here. This unit actually recovered. Now, he can't participate in the shock attack, but that's okay. And they're going to try to attack in here. Now, they did attack here. The pre-shock cohesion test failed, so that means the 1st Connecticut is disordered as well as the battery of Napoleons over here. So it's a 12 against 5, 2 to 1. They are going uphill, and the disorders were netted to be a +1, but the Confederate dice roll was a 0, which wound up being attacker retreats. So Fulkerson has to fall back, and the 23rd, and Fulkerson has to fall back. And they're disordered. They don't take the guns. They don't knock out any of the cavalry. Very up to there, just to hold that hex and make sure that that's not taken any way, shape, or form. Actually, I suppose this one's more vulnerable. If the Union, well, these guys may or may not move. They're out of command for that. I think that other hex is fairly safe over there. So that's the 1st cavalry activation. They've got a couple more activations to go. And here's the 2nd one. They're not going to do anything with that, so that's 2. And then we've got cavalry number 3. Again, they're just going to sit there, so that's all of them. And then we've got, and then we pull. This is going to be the last chit. Is going to be Millroy. All right, so Millroy only had 2 activations. So let's zoom you out and take a look at what that means for the Union and tilt it back. Ooh, a little bit too fast. Right down there. And zoom in right there. All right, so what that means is all these out of command guys are done. Command finished. Command finished. They're stuck right there. It's just basically going to be these guys over here. Ziegler back here, just off camera, he's not going to be doing anything because his unit's collapsed and he's probably going to be BCE'd. So it's going to focus right in here. And let's see, we got that victory hex there. And then was this a victory? Yes, this was a victory hex right here. So I think it's going to come down to this. And what we'll have is we'll have Schenk going against Connor right here. And first we'll take some shots. This guy here is on the flank. So there's a 3 firepower. And these are rifles. It's nighttime at 1 hex, so that cancels each other out, but it's a flank attack, so it's a +1. 3 + 1, rolls a 3. That's not going to do much. D-1, that's no effect. Okay. Now we've got these guys in front that can potentially shoot at each other. Or do we just go into the shock attack? And you know what? I think I'm not going to risk these guys because I really need them to stay in good order to try to get them. And Connor's already at low ammo. The unit, was it 12th Georgia? 25th Georgia is already low ammo. So we're just going to risk the 1 shot as part of the shock attack. So this is going to be the shock attack right there. Both of these units are going to shock. Confederates are going to try to hold that. I can't, well, no, they can't because they're in attack order, so they can't retreat. So they've got to do their pre-shock cohesion test. They are still in good order, so they are going to be, they need a 8 or less. And the dice roll, they roll a 7, they're okay. Oh, I should add 8 or less, they roll a 7. Let me just check one thing here. Actually, they do go up to an 8 because it's a flank attack, but it's 8, so they're okay. They don't disorder. All right, so they get to shoot back. So they'll get a full 7 shot back here on Schenk stack. But they are low ammo, so it's going to be -2. They are muskets, so it's going to cancel each other out, and there's going to be a -1 for the nighttime. And then another -1 for fatigue, which I forgot on the other one, but it didn't make any difference. So it's going to be -2. 7 -2. Ooh, they roll high. It's an 8. 8 -2 is 6. It's a D +2. The roll for the 8, and the roll for the UDD is 5 +2 is 7. Now Schenk is there as well, so we'll cancel out that 2. So it's just a regular UDD, which is a 6. So they pass. They're in good shape. So we're going to go right into the shock attack now. So we've got all these units here, which is 5 plus, there's a 9 unit underneath here. Yeah, there's a 9 unit underneath. And then this is 3. So it's going to be 17 going against 11, which is going to be not quite a 3-2 odds. But we are in open. Oh no, they're going to be going uphill. So it's going to be a -1. That's going to be a -1 over there. All right, so it's a 1-to-1. Vendors disordered, no. Charge benefit, no. Aggressive leader, no. Terrain chart, -1 for that. And then -1 for the fatigue. I'll toss that in right now. But now this is a front and flank attack. So it's going to be a +4 with that. So that's going to give us +2. And there's a brigadier, and I don't think there's anything else for the defender. And they added in the fatigue already. Oh, but the fatigues cancel each other out because there's one over there. So it's actually going to be a +3 to the Union die roll. Roll a low roll. Roll a 1 is a 4. It's a bloody standoff. Each side loses SP. and they basically hold their ground. So the Union is going to be taking theirs from, we'll take it from this there. They're all the same, so the Union can choose. We'll come off the bottom unit, so that'll be an 8, and everybody's disordered. That's right. Let's just flip all these guys, and everybody's disordered. So the Confederates hold out. These guys are disordered. Now they lose point. They go from 10, 11 to 10. 11, no, they were 10. Sorry. Didn't make any difference. And they'll go to a 9. They still hold out. There we go. All right, so they held out. So that's always Schenk's command. Of course, his fatigue goes up to 2. Actually, Connor's will go up to 2 because they shocked multiple times here. That was their second shock. So they'll go up to 2. And that is it. All right. Pretty much nothing else here other than the BC, which we already said. Ziegler, which now let me zoom out on you here. Ziegler over here, his unit's collapsed. Everybody else with him has, they're disordered back here. Tilt this up a little bit. Right there, they're disordered, collapsed, and then 2 in the route box. So they're going to be BCE'd. Look at my BCE counters. Oh, here they are. So he's going to be BCE. We'll put that on there just for everything. Let's see, that shock comes off. Take these commands off here so you can get a better view, because they couldn't really do anything. They're done, they're done, they're done, they're done. So this brings us to the end of the game here. All right, I think we're going to wind up with a draw for all that in the end, because the Union has 1 victory point, 3 victory points. They didn't get this one, and that's it. And then the Confederates have 5 for the BC up here, 1 for this hex up here. That makes 6. So it's 3 to 6. The only other thing is eliminated units, which there were no eliminated units or strength points eliminated on here. So that's it. It's going to be 6 to 3. So the difference there is 3. So it winds up being a draw. So there we have it. The end of McDowell. Quite an interesting scenario. Quite the tough scenario, particularly for moving and getting fatigued very quickly. Getting up the hill and trying to manage that fatigue, while at the same time trying to attack. As we talked about, a couple of units both in the broken track. Nothing really eliminated. Just troops running or getting broken, and just a lot of fatigue here as they move into the nighttime. So Confederates have a slight edge. They control the top of the hill. The Union is kind of on the side, not quite to the crest of the hill. Confederates are also moving up here along the Stanton, Parkersburg Turnpike, and moving towards McDowell with just artillery to hold them off, but artillery is pulling back there a little bit. So I think, and also with our wounding, we've got Shanks in command, and then a lot of other units just in tough situation. Whereas Johnson's still got a viable command, even though he's got a lot of collapsed units here. They're still fairly viable. And then the whole of Jackson's division here is still in a very good state. So I think they'll probably be able to squeak out a little bit of victory, at least push back the Union Army. Bit of casualties there with it, but hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you enjoyed this last bit of playthrough with the night rules on here. Makes it even tougher, because the night rules, you can see how fatigue just accumulates very quickly, and command is very tough to get moving there as well. But beautiful maps. This terrain is very interesting in terms of being rugged and rugged hills. And reading about this, this actually rises. This rise of Sittlinger's Hill rises up about 1,000 feet from the bull pasture run. That's this over here across there. So it is a tough climb up over there. I don't think it's really rocky or bouldery. I just think it's steep. Fairly open though, as you can see on here. So very interesting, very typical Shenandoah mountainous terrain here. So very interesting. There we go. It's an 1862 battle here from Great Battles of the American Civil War. The expansion pack, Battles in the Shenandoah. And I'll be moving on to the next one in the time frame series of 1862, which would be the first Winchester, and see how that plays out with Jackson trying to retake Winchester as part of his first Valley campaign. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, leave some comments, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.